It's y'all Leland live on your radios. We get cranked up here on this Tuesday, a hot Tuesday, but not as bad as it could be. We have certainly had much warmer weather this summer, so a little muggy, but I'll take it for now, just being in the 80s for today. And we do see a long range pattern flip. I'll get more into that a little bit later. We're not a complete flip, but nicer weather as we round out August. Can you believe we're digging into August now, August the 4th already? Lots of stuff today. The president heads out west to rally people in the midterms. We're under right at 90 days, I guess, from the midterms. The Michigan voters go to the polls today, of course, to nominate some nut jobs. The Democrats have put up some of the craziest people, and most of them, the polling is showing these oddball candidates are probably going to lose in the general, but you never know. This is we're living in one of the weirdest times right now. So many double standards and so much double speak, but I'm here for all of it, and we'll be talking about it through the afternoon. So Michigan has a fake doctor who is a socialist but doesn't want to be. Is going to be the Democrat nominee and likely to get beaten by Mike Rogers. They've got a complete psychopath, a mentally ill person. I believe this is in Wisconsin. They're putting up for governor. They've got this non-meat eating, I don't know, homo pastor that's supposed to be their nominee in Texas for the United States Senate. It just keeps going. It's just crazy town right now. So heading into the fall, man, here we go. And wildly unpredictable as who would control. Speaking of politics, I didn't mean to jump too hard into that when we started, but I was just watching both Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris bitching about the Electoral College. So we're back to that argument, which, by the way, was debated deeply by the founders, and all of the arguments they're making today are wholly rejected. And look, the main reason that these women are against the Electoral College is because they got their ass beat. And that's just to put it in some colloquial language. And so the reason I'm for the Electoral College is because they got their ass beat. That's all we got to say about that. Neither one of these insidious women will ever be president of the United States, ever. That means the system worked. Only in a system where you can stuff ballots and cheat at the polls can you really control a presidency, and the Electoral College is a firewall even against that, even though it's not perfect, as we saw in 2020. But anywho, there's all that today. I mean, just crazy stuff. Here's another nutty one. If we look out west, there have been these massive fires near Spokane, Washington, and they've been having to evacuate whole neighborhoods. The fire season out there this year, it's really hard to wrap your head around. Even though I was out there really dodging these things, one of the towns we stayed in a few weeks ago, I mean, 2 or 3 days after we left, they had to evacuate a good portion of the town because of fires that sprung up. Now, some of these fires are naturally occurring, but some of this is arson. And now this fire that has been raging around Washington, forcing just thousands to evacuate and damaging homes, they've arrested someone, and we may have more details on it in just a little while, but they've got at least one suspect in custody that may have set the fire that caused all that chaos in Spokane. And so that's, that sort of leads us into this phony hysteria that happens whenever there's a fire season or a hurricane season that's, it doesn't even have to be above normal. We just get a couple of hurricane landfalls and these idiots start talking climate change, which a lot of which has fallen apart because none of their revelations came true. The models have been exposed. Everybody's dropping that pretense because of the AI war. I think the AI has stolen the show from these people that want to power our economy on hopes and dreams, but they'll blame stuff like this on extreme weather and climate change. And the truth is, between arson, now granted conditions are dry out there, but that's a part of the West. But these arsonists will start a fire, and these folks will try to milk the damage and the fear. And then what's really going on are all these volcanic eruptions. We've just had Mount Etna to go off, and a couple of others in the near the Arctic Circle, and a lot of volcanic eruptions and tectonic activity. And as it turns out, that's producing more carbon than humans could produce in 200 years. By the way, carbon is a natural part of the atmosphere, thus the volcanoes. The climate has always changed. It's going to continue to change. And their attempts to link us to the causation of it, not that we're not contributing in some way, but we're not causing it. And it's never going to be the same. And I hope that argument's dead forever. But a lot of this stuff, just like Fauci, just like the other stories that come up that don't fit a narrative, these people have the most contagious cases of amnesia I've ever seen in modern times. If they don't want to talk about it, they don't talk about it, i.e. the so-called mass shooting in Idaho this weekend. Minute hero gunman helped stop the situation, and they can't make politics out of it. It's a dead story, and none of them are reporting on it today. They've moved on to other stuff. So, man, it's what else we got? It's a little bit of a slow day today, so we can get some of your phone calls in here a little bit earlier. Sometimes I have to take about an hour to get things off my chest. Let's talk about college sports for a minute. I just saw one of the things that's interesting, especially here in Alabama, is the coaches poll is now out, and this is not a sports show, but it has Alabama as low as number 11, and I know Bama fans are not very thrilled about that. Auburn's not even in it, so those two teams are going to have to come from behind this year to prove something in that poll, but they got Ohio State on top. So the sports world, right in the middle of the sports world, talking about the poll and just days out from the football season, here comes Nick Saban and the Protect College Sports Act. Now, I've still got to do some homework. I'll admit to being ignorant on it, even though, like a lot of fans, I think the NIL and the immediate transfers, the lack of competition. I mean, what's the word I'm looking for? There's no comprehensive team anymore. Every year it's fluid. One kid you're for because he's your guy this year is at another team next year, and it's creating a lot of disunity and dissatisfaction from the fan base in particular. But the Congress is trying to take it up, and I've got to do some homework on the merits, the good and bad merits in this bill. But now Saban has thrown his support behind it. He says he didn't get everything they wanted. I think the quote is they've done about 80% of what needs to be done. There's still some things that bother the former coach, and he's undoubtedly one of the biggest voices in the room on this issue because of his storied career, but he's not the final voice. And some of the people I hear complaining about the details of whatever it is Congress is trying to do, it says it could make things worse in some ways. And I generally would agree with that sentiment. You don't want people in Congress with flags and whistles over college football. It can't get better. I can't think of much they've ever made better, to be honest with you. But it's a mess, and something's got to be done, and that may be the best alternative. So we'll no doubt be talking about that as it starts to move forward. Now, they're about to head on a recess. I think they're in the rest of this week, and then they're out for most of the month. There's about 20 Republican senators that are pretending they're going to hang around. They're not going to. I mean, I appreciate them. I appreciate the sentiment, and I'm with them if it were legit, but it's only 20 of them. They're only how many? They're 32 short in their own caucus to keep the Senate in session. I don't think there's any way possible that they stay in session. And here's one of the reasons you know that. They're starting to approve some things and get some CRs done. There's some CR business on the way. There is we've got some Trump approvals from some of his nominations on the way that is a priority of the president to get these things done. They're doing some cleanup right now so they can go home. Their vacations are being threatened, and leadership's going to go home. They're going to go home. I don't know if I ever recall them staying through in August. Maybe, I want to say maybe in 2009, 2008, when the economy was being tanked by the housing thing. Seems like I remember them having an extended session to do TARP or something like that. But yeah, so these lazy bastards, particularly the Republicans, they're not going to stay there for August. So they're going to clean up. They're going to get what they can get done. And then you won't see anything. You won't see this Protect College Act or any of this stuff moving forward for at least 4 more weeks. And then we'll see what the debate is when we get to that point. All right, those are some random things. It's pretty random today. Again, 545-9950 is the phone number if y'all want to get on the radio show and talk a little trash or do whatever you want to do today. AJ, I got a note from you that says lives for today, but I do not have the sheet. You did not attach the sheet, so if you could send me that, we could get everything. I do that all the time, so no problem on this end. Just letting you know. Send that to me, and we'll get cranked up on all that. And again, 545-9950 if you want to get on the show. We'll care if Trump does anything of note as he heads out west. I'm not even sure what time his speaking engagement is. Of course, we'll try to pass that along to you to join it. He did briefly speak to reporters on the tarmac when he was en route to the Los Angeles. It's an RNC event out there. But I don't know that there were any real big sound bites that came out of it either. All right, quick break. We'll be back here in just a minute. Lead on Live. Y'all stay tuned. All right, till 219, Leland Live Talk 99.5, All American Metals. Next up here on the show, and I'm doing my show from my pole barn. It may not look like it from the camera angle, but that's what this facility is inside that facility. And I call it a facility because it's so multi-use. And many of you know, I'll tell my personal story. When I first built it, it was mainly for RV storage and my tools. And then slowly I started finding more and more uses for it. And we've hosted birthday parties in here, kid birthday parties. I have turned this thing into, AJ, I turned this whole place into Under the Sea one night, just with lights and for the bonus daughter, and they had a big old time. I have taken the engine out of a Jeep in this thing. It is my hangout. We've hosted church small groups in here, and that kind of flexible space on your property is so convenient, especially if some of y'all are paying for mini storage or got a lot of stuff out in the rain that needs to be kept dry. All American can help you knock those projects out. Now, a bigger part of their business is being out there in the world doing these big commercial projects. If you go out and look at any of their facilities, they've got examples of these massive, super tall buildings, warehouse buildings for corporations and manufacturers. And of course, since the 60s, they've done that kind of work. But they will produce every part of your package, no matter if it's a big commercial job or your situation at home. They've got total control of everything from the design to the production of the building itself in their factories right here around Birmingham, then the delivery straight to your site. My experience with this kind of construction too is it goes up so quickly, and you're in there and dried out and fixing it up like you want it all along. It's good to have a good trusted local company that, by the way, will beat the big competitors on price, on turnaround, and you get customization. They're just not going to be beaten. They're quick and they do things right. It's allamericanmetals.com, allamericanmetals.com. All right, real quick look at the markets, and we'll talk more about this later as we get toward the close. But the Dow has been on a tear today, up almost 2%. Same thing on the NASDAQ. Dow's over 1,000 points up today. Back into record territory, 54,000. Now, that doesn't put money in your pocket, but some of that, and it's kind of mixed, and it goes back to this election where economic issues will be exploited one way or the other in the midterms. And so it's that irritating price of gas, which is starting to drift down because the base price of oil is coming down. Last time I checked the WTI today, it was at $76 a barrel. And so things are getting a little bit better. I saw some ignorant meme today about they showed a big pot roast or some big steak at the store and what the price is now versus 4 years ago or whatever. And I think the quote was, "Tell me that inflation's only 2.7%." And I was like, yeah, well, that's just ignorant. The average inflation is pretty good right now. It's not perfect, but it's a hell of a lot better than we were. And it's not one item. You don't base inflation on somebody's pot roast price at their particular grocery store. It's on a number of things that affect the economy. One of those things that the markets are looking at that is part of this sort of Trump strategy of repatriating business back here to the country. And you can take heart at this. This is fundamental stuff. This isn't socialism where they're going to steal from people and give you something for free. This is just reinvesting in the country so that we all have an opportunity to work, to go and do things in a competitive way. That's the only thing that ever works in our system, or really any system. But you've got to have core manufacturing. You've got to bring back building things so that all the service industries can work around that. It's just true. You have to produce something of value, particularly that you can sell outside of your market in order for money to be coming in. For most people, that's logical. Some people, this stuff isn't taught in schools anymore. I don't know what the hell they do in the public schools anymore, but they don't teach history and they don't teach this. And your kids are failing at math and science compared to the rest of the world. So good luck with all that as we get the school year started back again. But the bottom line is we've seen a huge uptick in manufacturing heavy orders for machinery. I was just talking about All American Metals. By the way, did I give you the website aa-metal.com? It's people starting to go vertical with construction on new manufacturing prospects. It's new plant announcements. So think about it. Trump's been there less than 2 years. It took months to get the trade negotiations through the tariff war worked out. Some of that has produced reinvestment because of the trade deals themselves, but others are incentivized because we started attacking the energy cost, which started coming down, and you wind up deporting this suppressed wage labor base that the Democrats brought in here to screw things up. By the way, while I'm being a numbers nerd, the deportations set a record the other day of 51,000 last month. That may not be enough for most people, but if you look at the bar graph, it was after Trump finally had to win some final dilatory court rulings. The Democrats just had a strategy of blocking up the deportations by holding up everything in the courts, and some of that got cleared. And the deportations, when you see the chart, they've gone straight up. By comparison, we just saw part of Spain, that little city of Ceuta, get raided by 51,000 people. How about that? So in one day, they took them in. We're sending them out, and we are not allowing crossings. So in a net way, that is starting to affect a lot of things. It's affecting hospital crowding. It's affecting school crowding. It's affecting the housing market. Some of that stuff's starting to equalize because we don't have this artificial pressure, because these people weren't just coming here as a presence. They were being subsidized by your own government. And then they were putting them into the housing communities where there are shortages, driving up rents and everything else with it. Crime was going up. Crime's going down again. We're hitting lows. All these Democrat mayors are taking credit for it. They hadn't done a damn thing, other than some have dropped the foolishness from the BLM days of it's not good to put people in jail, and they're starting to incarcerate people and get the worst among us away from us and put away where they need to be. And so things are improving in a number of measurable ways. You may not feel it yet, but again, if it took Trump a few months to threaten the tariffs and negotiate with these companies, and not just that, I mean, this dude's got CEOs hanging out in the White House on a weekly basis, standing around behind him, making another announcement or this or that about something new they're going to invest in the tech sector, with this AI stuff, with energy production, the car manufacturers. They were just in there the other day. We're bringing back industrialization in some ways, even in a world that seems to be shifting to a service economy. We understand how that stuff works. So I'm here to spread some sunshine. The fundamentals are all there. The two big hangups are, personally, people don't like the gas price, which is hanging around in a place that gives folks the heebie-jeebies. And of course, some of the inflation from the Biden spending that got up to at 1.9% is still with us. Y'all, we're still dealing with vestiges of the COVID shutdowns. They ran businesses out of business with that nonsense. And some of those, if you think about that whole equation, you take offline some of the restaurants, some of the other type businesses that went belly up and were particularly vulnerable during that time. And now you got less competition. And less competition automatically is going to mean higher prices in some places and in some sectors. So the fallout from that could last 10 years. That was a shock to the system that we had not seen in our lifetimes. Yet the numbers have turned in the other direction on almost every measurable scale. Some stuff's a little off for sure, but I'm optimistic today, and I think the investors are, and I think eventually once these manufacturing facilities get out of the ground and completely employing people, there'll have to be a hiring phase. There's a training phase in the ramp up to all this new stuff. And here's the thing. Here's the irony of ironies. By the time it all really starts cooking, Trump will probably be out of office. Now, he's going to take credit for it. There's no doubt he takes credit for anything that he sees as a success. But he won't get to enjoy as much of this as president. Somebody else will come along and stand in front of the big fat check that they're giving some community and pretend they did it. We see that all the time. It's a little bit of an economics ramble as we get cranked up here today. Southern Skies Dermatology bringing in the show tonight too. What a wonderful shop over there to help you prevent skin cancer. It's real, y'all. You probably know somebody that's had some form of it. Some of you, like me, I've seen many tragic cases with it. I've lost friends. I've seen friends go through very disfiguring surgery because they caught it too late. My mother's battle has just been epic for her, and she is still doing well, by the way. Had a good clear checkup the other day. The treatment for internal melanoma has radically changed, and it's saving lives. But the best thing has always been early detection, and that requires you to go get checked. So don't think you're too good for it. Don't think your skin color is not the right color or your age isn't of concern right now because you don't feel old. Everybody needs to get a baseline. We all need to know our skin health and then take care of it from there. And they can absolutely do that for you at Southern Skies. This is all they do. They find and remove skin cancer. SouthernSkiesDermatology.com, SouthernSkiesDermatology.com. Quick break. Back in a minute. Leland Live. Y'all stay tuned. Man, AJ, funky horns may be too much for the people this early on a Tuesday.
I got to wake them up, you know?
I like it. Like everything about that. Hey, welcome ProLift Garage Doors to the show. They've just come on this week, and it's a business many of you have heard about here on the station, Mike Miller and his wonderful company that does exactly what it sounds like they do, and that's come and fix your garage door issues. Got to meet Mike the other day. He's been advertising with us here on the station for a while, and we had a opening for him, and he wanted to be in on the show, and it was cool to meet him because, look, I've dealt with garage door issues. All of us have. My whole life. One of my questions to Mike right out of the gate was, how many people just back into a door and screw it up? He goes, you have no idea. He laughed and rolled his eyes. So probably a big part of the business, and I'm not making fun because it could happen in a second. But they wear out. They've got a lifespan. They're a mechanical part of your house, but a trusted part of your house. A lot of people get the heebie-jeebies if that garage door is stuck open. You can't quite figure out how to get it down, or maybe even it's one of those situations where it's an opening to the home, right? All your stuff stored in there. If you're like Joe Biden, you've got confidential files. You never know what can be in a garage. So the door's key, and it's got to work and work when it's supposed to, especially in a stormy rain. And Mike can keep you going no matter what's going on with you. So if you do, it's helpful. And I give this tip a lot with a lot of our advertisers to go ahead and get some of this. Get some of this information jotted down somewhere where you can set it aside and keep it. But other than that, y'all just reach out to them at proliftdoors.com. Proliftdoors.com. That is one name. You kind of put that together, proliftdoors.com. And let Mike come take care of it for you. Springs break, panels pop out, stuff goes wrong. It's just part of home ownership. And with this moving thing, things are going to get sideways. And it can be a lot of you can figure out how to fix some of these things, but it can be a whole lot to get the tension just right. There's so many variables in these things. And by the way, the big part of their business is commercial work. And I love that. The big warehouse, the big speed doors, if you got trucks coming and going from your warehouse space, they do a lot of those overhead roll-up doors. I've got one of those on my barn right now, and that thing is, man, when it starts giving me fits, I know who I'm going to call. I'm going to get Mike over here and let him take a look at it. It is ProLift Garage Doors, and y'all can reach out to them if you need anything with this stuff. If you're managing property and this is one of your pain, when you're managing property, boy, it's always air conditioners and roof leaks and garage doors. And if you're a property manager out there trying to get it done, it's good to have these go-to experts, real estate agents trying to get to a close. Reach out to Mike at proliftdoors.com, proliftdoors.com, and thank him for joining us here on the show. I'm going to stick with the economy because this goes with that. I was mulling this over today. We hear statistics about it, and I don't know if it's good or bad. Let me just throw it out there. But through recent survey samples, we've determined that a record number of 25 to 34-year-olds are still living with their parents in the United States of America. A record number. Now, let's break that down before we get too judgmental, and we'll talk about it. So I don't think it's healthy. To me, the best thing that ever happened to me in my life was being highly motivated to leave my little small town and do something on my own. And I didn't have a lot of resources and didn't have a whole lot, but it gave me a confidence that I could stand on my own 2 feet. Y'all, at 17 and a half, I was barely, I guess maybe I'd turned 18. I was paying my own rent, had my own car, had my own job, put myself through school, and didn't know if I was going to be able to do it. Every single day was a struggle, but that, to this day, that stuff fortifies, especially a young man, that you can stand on your own and at some point provide for other people. This is also part of a statistic of some in this generation putting off marriage, putting off having kids. It's sad to me to see that generation doesn't think this country can give them opportunity, or at least give them the chance to earn it, because some of them really do. They really want to work hard. They don't know where to turn. Most of them are overeducated. I'll almost presume a lot of these kids had spent years in college with these loans. The government will just hand you money to go to school. They won't hand you the money to start a business. You can't get $150,000 to start a car wash or some idea you have. You can get it to go to some school that's going to miseducate you and leave you hanging. And now they got all this debt. and they can't afford to purchase. And in some ways, I could criticize the parents because my rule was always, your ass is gone at 18. You're welcome to come back and visit. It was tough love, and I think it worked for my boys. But even since then, my last one left home in 2012 for college. And those boys went out there and did okay, but I had to kind of enforce that. And there were a couple of times with one of my sons, he'd be in between a situation, and of course, parents are going to help him out. But it's always better for you and them. By the way, it puts a kink in your style. I'm just going to tell you, it puts a kink in your lifestyle when your grown-ass kids show back up and think they're your roommate. Any of you who've had kids come home from college know exactly what I'm talking about. When they think they're on your level, and this is their house too, that they didn't pay for, and they want to live by their rules under your roof as adults, it's tension. It's pure tension. Unless they're going to come and contribute and hang around. But 25 to 34 are living at home with their parents. Now, let me flip all that on its head. And I welcome any thoughts y'all have about this at 545-9950. I remember this experiment we had this crazy social studies teacher in high school. His name was, we called him Buddy Simpson. He was Mr. Simpson to us, but his name was Buddy Simpson. And this dude was so far ahead of his time. We all thought he was a little bit kooky. He was an inventor. He had these weird inventions he would show us. He was the first person to ever broach us with the concept of a cashless society where you didn't need dollar bills in your pocket. And that in the 80s, man, that was mind-boggling. We were like, what? That's crazy. You can't go cashless. You have to have dollars. Well, look where we are. And other things that he could see coming. He'd even get into some of these subjects about computers taking over and running everything with AI, and we'd all sort of go to sleep. But he was a fascinating and eccentric guy, and I'm pretty sure he's no longer with us because he was an older guy back then. But the more I get older, and some of you had teachers like this, even the quirky things they were trying to get across still stuck in there somewhere, even though you might have laughed it off with your immaturity. And one of them was, I remember one day he asked a question of the class. I presume we had about 25 people in the class. That was about our class size in just about everything. And he goes, how many of you have a grandparent living at home with you right now? And about 2 people raised their hand. And he said, and then he asked a bunch of other questions similar to that. How many of you have a kid that's in their, your parents, you have an older sibling in their 20s or 30s living at home? And nobody raised their hand. It was the 80s. And so his point was, he said, if I had asked that question 30 years ago, back to really post World War II, he said, most of you would have had a grandparent living in the house. It would be all but 2 of you. It was what families did, is they stayed together. I grew up watching the Waltons, man. It was no big deal. They all lived in the house. It was grandma and grandpa and the kids, and some of those were grown and some of them were smaller. And that was a depiction of sort of World War II era America in that part of Virginia, West Virginia, depicted on a real story. And that was life in America. There wasn't a stigma associated with continuing to care for your family and the families huddling together. So it's not all bad. Maybe there's some good sides to it. We just shifted to this sort of independent model, which was, again, I do still believe better for that age group to be on their own and foraging on their own. It's not just better for the parents and the kid that's living at home. It's better for the economy, for people to be productive and be in a situation where they need to be productive and to be focused. But that is a startling statistic, and it's continuing to go up. Now, I will geek out on social trends all day long. And so when that one popped up, I was looking at the other economic news and realizing that it all kind of works together. The interest rates being artificially held high, the pressure, all that stuff I just talked about in the last segment, the pressure on the housing system that came from the inflation caused by the Biden administration and the Republicans that went along with that stupid spending, the COVID shutdowns, the housing market's not ever really returned to normal. The construction cost, the competition between new and older pre-owned home ownership, it's boxing kids out of rent. We crowded out the space with millions of people from other countries. All that stuff is kind of conspired to lock these kids down and keep them from being able to afford to go out and do what we did. By 34, man, I was already I was already well into life, and some of y'all could attest to the same age. But it is what it is, and rather than sit here in total judgment, I almost don't fault parents if they've got a good kid that's but still they understand where the I mean we say kid, but and my kids are in that age range. If you got a good kid and you know they're doing everything they can do, they're doing their part, but they just can't afford that apartment, or they, in order to do something else, they need to be able to save their money to move forward on something else. Sure, any loving parent's going to try to help them out, but that will have societal repercussions down the road. Because think about it, we've got a measurable little mini generation of kids that came through the COVID era during the lockdowns that are still playing catch up. There are kids that were in the sixth grade when all that happened that are now seniors in high school, and they're not caught up because our system's not even capable of catching them up. They were behind anyway. And so you see these trends move through society. And so now we've got this whole delayed adulthood where they're not leaving home, they're not getting married, they're not having kids. That's leading to population declines, birth rate declines all across the industrialized West, parts of Asia. These productive countries have a whole generations of kids that aren't having kids, and then sort of you get Elon Musk theories about population collapse, but the math kind of bears that out. It's a weird statistic. Anyway, thought I'd spend a little time on it today. Y'all, storm restoration roofing. Let's talk about your house again. And my man Greg Nelson and his whole crew. I just trust Greg. I'm like that with nearly, well, all of our advertisers. If I don't have a trust factor there, I can't put my voice behind them. I can't endorse them. And we've had roofing companies over the years to try to want to come on the show and come and go. But when I met Greg and found out about how many years he's been doing it, that his whole family's engaged. I even talked to other people that have worked with him before, and insurance adjusters that love working with a company like this. It just makes everything so much more seamless when you've got a competent roofer in the middle of an insurance claim when everything's kind of crazy. You ever get you ever get roof damage and rain's coming in? That is traumatic to a family where you're just trying to get dried in and you need to get that thing covered. Well, that's where Greg comes to the rescue. Unlike these sort of troll operations that'll show up just trying to get business sometimes. You don't know who they are, where they came from, what their experience is, if they're going to come back tomorrow. So you don't have to be vulnerable to a roof situation, even if it's just a replacement. You've got an experienced, almost 30-year veteran with his whole family working alongside him. He lives right here. He's one of us. They're based out of Pell City. And Greg will just take care of you. If you need to get a quick tarp on so you can get through the claims process in the storm, he's going to take all the time you need. There is some time. You don't have to go file your claim the day after something big happens. And he understands all these rules. He knows what the insurance companies will allow and what they won't, how to document it, how to show them what the problem is so that you've got a better chance of getting your claim covered. He's even got finance companies that have come alongside his company, and these guys will help you finance those big, giant out-of-pocket deductibles. A lot of us have those, and you don't even know it. You haven't read your policy in it. I'll be honest, I haven't either. But it's a shock when you already got a problem. You got water coming in, your roof needs fixing, and they're telling you got a $7,000 deductible. Greg's got companies that'll help with that part of it too. Y'all, it's Storm Restoration Roofing, and he works on a phone number, and I've delayed as long as I can to be able to give you this number so you can jot it down somewhere, because you may not need him right now, but you might, and this is why you need the number. Here's the number, 205-542-3531, 205-542-3531. Storm Restoration Roofing. Back here in a minute. Leland Live. All right, y'all, 252, Legal Live, talking to NM5. Let's talk about Lonnie's Furniture Company. I keep turning a lot of my attention to the fall. I'm just excited. Here comes fall and football and holidays. And for many of us, it's just the best part of the year. The weather's just glorious. The trees will be beautiful. And so it's all about home sprucing up for a lot of people as we wrap up summer. I know I've been out. I worked on a concrete slab today. Don't even ask. It's a drainage thing I'm working on. So it's always something on the project list. One of those things is spruce up on the inside too. And I know we'll be making a trip up to Lonnie's to pick up some odds and ends to complete some spaces. And when we get there, we're going to find what I always find, which is a massive store full of a lot of selection. And by the way, I'm working it out with Reggie. In a couple of weeks, we'll be doing a live show there just ahead of Labor Day to get kicked off for all that. So you're just going to find beautiful stuff. I know everything in there is quality stuff. I know there's a variety of styles, so there'll be something pretty close to what I want. And if they don't have it exactly, he can either order it or they may have it in their giant warehousing operation. It's just a lot of everything in one space and some of the kindest people in the world that work there. So do yourself a favor. If you're looking, I don't care if you're looking for a lamp, just go there and look for your lamp. They got plenty of lamps. They've got a little bit of everything for everybody, and you'll enjoy the experience. I think you'll go back time and time again. And right now, for a short time through the end of September, they have special financing. They've never had a term this long. Reggie told me they've got 48 months financing with 0% interest. How about that? The caveats are you've got to have good credit to get it, and you've got to be able to make all your payments or the interest kicks in. Y'all have seen deals like that before, but that's a good way to go ahead and acquire what you need, get it done, and get it in your house and let them bring it to you and be ready for the most beautiful part of the year. Here comes the fall. Lonnie's FurnitureCompany.com, LAUNIUS, Lonnie's FurnitureCompany.com. All right, let's grab some phone calls. We'll get that started early here on the show. Pretty quiet day. That's when everything's about to go pop. It always happens. Denise is on a cell phone next. Denise, what's on your mind this afternoon?
He was on the news yesterday. Kennedy was, and on CNN, I think it was.
Yep.
And she was shuffling all those papers, trying to come up with something to go against him. Well, the one thing that they never mentioned, the news media or whoever, is that all these illegals that come over, the millions of people that come across, they have diseases with them, including the measles, the mumps, and all these other diseases that we, the United States of America, we vaccine for, but they do not. So that's why all of the measles,
I think we're losing Denise. We were losing you there for a second. I think there has been a measles uptick. There are other diseases that have been largely stamped out here in the country. And it stands to reason when people are coming from third world conditions where they don't have a robust immunization policy in effect, you really don't know what you're getting if you haven't vetted that. Disease questions and health questions have always been a part of our immigration protocol. If you came to Ellis Island for decades, if you came through Ellis Island, they're going to ask you about TB. They would scan you for other communicable diseases, and they would not let you in. People got turned away all the time for tuberculosis and some other things that were, again, not as well understood as they are now, but still a health screening was part of it. You had to have your own resources, a job, family, and good health, or we wouldn't let you in the door. But when you let people in mass, you're going to get some of all of that. You're going to get good people that work hard, and you're going to get criminals. You're going to get super healthy people, and you're going to get some people that are bringing stuff in that we've got to deal with in our communities. And when it comes to COVID, Denise, and I know you're referencing RFK Jr. Chewing whatever that lazy CNN reporter was, Dana Bash or whatever, just chewing her a new one over her. It was brilliantly done. We've got to confront these people with truth and don't repent from it, don't retreat from it, and that's what he did because truth's on his side. She was a player, and so was her whole network, in dispensing a lot of bad information. And I don't even think naively so they did it on purpose. But back to that issue, we were letting immigrants during that same time period where you couldn't go to the hospital and hold your grandmother's hand because of distancing protocols and everything else associated with it. We were letting millions of people cross the border at that very same time, unchecked, unvaccinated, no requirements on them whatsoever. And we're still trying to figure out what's here. And sometimes it will manifest itself in some problems.
Exactly. Well, I think that the Democrats, the ones that open the borders, that let these people come over here, need to own up to that.
Oh, they won't.
The part of the diseases that are in the United States now, instead of putting the people that are trying to help, putting them on the chopping block. You know, I mean,
Denise, I appreciate your phone call. We're running up to the top of the hour. No, the Democrats will never own up to it. The media won't even own up to it. They're saying, well, we were just going by the advice we were given at the time, and it was a scary time. And it's just like RFK Jr. said, yeah, because y'all were scaring the hell out of people with a lot of stuff that wasn't necessary. It was a big plan, and we should never let it go. It's funny, one of their other refrains too is just, y'all need to drop it. That was 6 years ago. I was like, well, how long was January 6th? Y'all haven't shut up about that either. Can I go on? When did slavery end? Y'all never shut up about that. I mean, there's a lot of things that are buried in history that we have to remember to know what we did wrong. Lots of places and times in history where we need to look back and see what was wrong with it. And the COVID experience is definitely one of them. All right, back in a minute. 1819 News on the way. Leland Live.